Good afternoon. You're watching us here on Halftime Report. As always, I'm Manglam Malu with Ekta Batra and Sonal Bhutra. It is a down day for the markets, no two ways about it, but it's not quite out because we're down about 0.25% on the frontline indices. The mid-cap index down about 0.5%. Compare that to the way the Asian screen is behaving right now. We have indices like Hang Seng down at 2%. Even the next performer that we have is Nikkei, which is down by about 1/3%, which is a little more than us. So we're doing well and we're holding on to 18,350. That's an important mark to watch out for. So down, but not quite out.
Yes, absolutely, Sonal, as well as Manglam. Hi. We are sluggish in today's trading session, but I thought I'd, probably lift up the mood by talking about a couple of stocks which are, in fact, at fresh 52-week highs today. So do watch out for a couple of stocks, which are hovering around those levels of, say, for example, a Bharti Airtel at this point in time, Cummins, HAL, Mazgon Docs. I didn't put that in the list, but that stock too is at a fresh 52-week high. We're seeing a lot of momentum in individual counters. Even something like a JB Chemicals is sitting at a fresh high, so that one is up around 1.3%. And don't forget follow-on buying in stocks such as Medanta as well. It was a good listing in yesterday's trading session, and that kind of momentum is continuing into today's trading session as well. So yes, it's weak for the indices, but specific stocks doing well.
Oh yes, a lot of them, and you mentioned some of them. Of course, yesterday in this show itself, we were talking about how Nifty is inching towards its record high, but looks like it could be a slower, move towards those levels. So for now, 18,366. Yesterday's low was around 18,344. So that's an important level to watch out for. But as Ekta pointed out, a lot of individual stocks that are buzzing around in trade, and our Systems is one of them. It's up over 15% in trade after Blackstone has bought majority stake in the company for around 2,900 crore rupees. Let's get in Rima now, who will tell us more about this one. Rima?
Thanks so much for that. So Blackstone, the PE firm, has acquired the promoter holding in our Systems. The promoters hold about a 52% stake, and that has been acquired by Blackstone, which means that Blackstone is now the promoter of our Systems with a 52% stake. But Blackstone wants to delist the company, which is why they are making an open offer to acquire the balance 48% stake. That will be done at a base price of 246 rupees. So Blackstone wants to get that 100% stake and delist the company, but the minimum that they require is a 90%. But currently, the stock market, the current market price of our Systems is higher than the base price which has been offered by Blackstone for delisting, which is 246. Now, successful delisting of our System pretty much boils down to one investor, and that is Bhavuk Tripathi. So Bhavuk Tripathi is an investor. He has about a 35.5% stake in the company, plus he has some investments via his portfolio companies. So on the whole, he has about 37% stake out of the 48% that Blackstone wants to acquire, and his holding now stands at 1,200 rupees per share. Perhaps what the market is sussing out that this delisting is not going to be successful at the current price that the promoters want, and the actual discovered price through that whole process will be significantly higher, maybe like we saw in the case of Linde India. Now, our Systems is a product engineering company, something similar to, say, a Persistent, but of course much smaller in size. Now, our Systems has done well as a stock price. The last 3-year returns, excluding today's gains, right, just till yesterday was about 350%. The 5-year returns till yesterday were 463%. Another, so Blackstone is big on IT in India. They have various, investments in unlisted companies, but in the listed space, they have an investment in Infosys. But our Systems is a much smaller company. It's a product company, while Infosys is an IT services company. And when we quiz the management that do you think Blackstone would be interested in perhaps, trying to get some synergies by merging the two, the indication seems that unlikely. But where our Systems can benefit perhaps is that they could get business, or they could get orders from many of the Blackstone portfolio companies like Infosys does. So that could be a synergy play that Blackstone and our Systems together can work out. Back to you.
All right, Rima, thanks a lot for that. And to give us some more insights on the same, this is Insight Edge. We caught up with Satinder Singh Rekhi, who's the CEO of our Systems as well, to understand the road ahead for the company and more importantly, what his role will be in the same.
The rationale is that we have reached a point and we need a big partner who can take care of the company and take us to the next level of its growth and take care of its employees, customers, and partners. Blackstone is a great partner. They are very good, employee-friendly with their other portfolio companies, and that's why we wanted to partner with them. And the promoters will be involved. How it unfolds, we will know as we go along. I will certainly be a strategic advisor to them, and as we go along, the role will develop a little more. Blackstone has a lot of expertise, so that has to be utilized into the company. It's always a dilemma, whether you do it when the wave is going up or other times. But looking at it inside, I think we needed a stronger partner because we are going to get into larger customer bases, so that required a heavyweight along with us.
Okay, so that's our systems. The stock is up around 16%, one of the biggest mid-cap movers today. But let's move on then. Shriram Transport is also gaining. This is after the NCLT has approved the amalgamation with Shriram Group. Abhishek Kothari is here with the details and what this means. Abhishek.
NCLT has approved the scheme of amalgamation and arrangement between the Shriram Group. So this NCLT order was given to them as of 14th of November. So the company has fixed 30th November 2022 as the record date. This is to determine the fact that how many shares of Shriram Transport Finance will be given to the shareholders of Shriram City Union Finance as well as Shriram Capital. As per the merger terms, we already know that, for every 100 share of Shriram City Union Finance, shareholders will receive about 155 shares of Shriram Transport Finance. Back to you.
Okay, Shriram Transport, the stock is up 4% in trade today, but what is not doing well in trade is Tata Motors, trading lower after Jaguar Land Rover, that is JLR CEO Thierry Bolloré has resigned, citing personal reasons. Sonia is joining us to give us more details on this one. Sonia? Well, thanks a lot for that. As you rightly pointed out, this is a tough time for Tata Motors. Now, the JLR CEO has resigned from December end of this year. Thierry Bolloré, who was the CEO from 2020, has now put in his resignation, citing personal reasons. Adrian Mardell will be taking over as the interim CEO of JLR. Now, this comes at a time when there are a lot of challenges that JLR is facing, given the kind of demand crunch in the European region. In Q2, JLR, in fact, lowered its guidance for FY23. They also reported a negative free cash flow of £15 million because of the adverse working capital movement. The EBIT margins for JLR had fallen 230 basis points quarter on quarter. And at a time like this, the resignation of the CEO bodes as negative news for the company. There's no clarity on when the new CEO will be announced. And for the interim basis, there is Adrian Mardell. Remember, the stock as well has been a big underperformer this year. It's down 15% this year, while stocks like M&M, TVS Motor, etc. have had huge rallies. So all in all, disappointing information coming in for Tata Motors.
Okay, definitely. And it's even Titan, which is now down around 2% top loser on the Nifty. So do watch out for Tata Motors as well as Titan. Well, we need to take a short break. But up next, Prakash Gama will be joining in to discuss his trading strategies on this Thursday. Stay tuned.
दो साल में रेट रॉकेट 100%।
क्या भाई साहब, गेट सही प्राइस ट्रेंड्स at 99acres.com। घर लेना हो या बेचना, एक्सपर्ट से ही पूछना। 99acres.com।
I like it. Play it your way. Sarah, this is your space.
Play it your way.
Odisha, the unstoppable force, welcomes you
to highlight Odisha's emerging industrial aptitude. Our visionary leadership introduced an inspired idea, the Make in Odisha Conclave.
Odisha is ready to enthrall you all over again. Align with the growth ideas from thought leaders. finding ways to explore the zenith and beyond, showcasing skills, encouraging startups, enhancing women-led entrepreneurship, developing our designated key focus sectors, celebrating culture like never before. We are ready for us.
I invite you all to the Make in Odisha conclave. Come join the juggernaut.
Dadu,
Yes?
what does premium mean?
Beta, premium you can say is like petrol. The car will keep going till the time it has petrol. Once petrol is over, the car stops.
But Dad, this time even if the petrol is over, our car won't stop.
How come?
With LIC's Jeevan Labh, even after the premium payment tenure is over, the policy's benefits continue.
That means our journey of happiness will continue non-stop.
LIC, हर पल आपके साथ.
झाके रे झाके झरोके से झाके हैरत से आंखें अपनी सी दुनिया नई रंगी लागे ख्यालों की खिड़की से मन कूदे भागे झाके रे झाके झरोके से झाके देख के दंग है छोटे बड़े सारे झाके रे झाके हर कोई ताके तरक्की को टुक टुक हर कोई ताके झाके रे झाके
Reimagineering brighter futures with smarter steels. ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel India. Smarter steels, brighter futures.
Welcome back. You're watching us here on Halftime Report, that time of the day where we also take a look at what's taking place in the FNO space. And today is important primarily because it's also the weekly options expiry. And there are three data points that I'm watching out for, three strikes. One is the 18,300 put on the Nifty, because the Nifty has managed to hold on to that mark beautifully. 18,300 put is where a fair amount of action is taking place. And we have a lot of the bulls believing that, you know, this is some support for them. Almost a crore shares added in open interest out there. The other one that I'm looking at is 18,350. As we bounce back from lower levels and holding above that 18,350 mark as well, almost a crore shares written for 18 rupees out there too. So bulls believe that, you know, between 18,300 to 18,350, lies a fair amount of support for the market. However, what's interesting is as we inch closer towards 18,400, the bears aren't letting their grip loose as well. 18,400 call comes up for you, and that's seen a fair amount of writing as well. And for a premium of almost 15 odd rupees, there's been 1 crore shares written. So were the Nifty to move closer towards that 18,400 mark and sustain above that, these 2 crore shares which are currently at the open interest will have to run for cover, and that may cause a further upside as well. But until that happens, 18,350 to 18,400 is the zone that everyone is looking at. Does that tie in technically as well? We have Prakash Gaba joining us on the show to detail just that. Prakash, yesterday was a 100-point range that we meandered around. Today, that range seems to have narrowed a little. What are your thoughts?
Exactly. Good afternoon to you. What I would say that market is not doing anything. It's just trading sideways. That's not good enough. It needs to trade either go up or go down. Only thing is narrow ranges basically means something is setting up. Possibly we are looking for a breakout tomorrow or maybe next week. Now, if it takes out the high of 18,450, yesterday's high is there, then we'll see a good up move. Otherwise, I would say that there is a support in the recent low of somewhere closer to 18,250 or so. That's a good place to bounce from if it has to. So far, I would say it is sideways, but there is no weakness as such. So far, there is strength, but it's not going up as far as Nifty is concerned. Exactly similar as the case with Bank Nifty, might be sluggish, strong support in the region of 43,300, 42,300. So I think we could see a slide, but it needs to take out yesterday's high. Then there's a good up move.
Okay, and specific stocks, Prakash?
Yeah, I like ICICI Bank. That's certainly looking good to me. Seeing a good up move. The traction is higher. Momentum is there. Trading at 919 now. 919. I would have a stop below 910 and trade long here. Can it go to 930? I think that's the target I have. Maybe 930 to 940 is the target at ICICI Bank. Maybe take a day or two for that. The second stock that I like is L&T. seen a good momentum today. I like the larger term structure. It's come down to go up, trading at around about 2000 zones. So 2020 could be a stop, and perhaps target would be 2100 LND.
Okay, all right, Prakash, thank you so much for joining us, taking us through the technical charts and individual picks as well. So that's an outlook on the technicals of the markets, but let's get stock specific again. There's one stock on our radar, that is NMDC. It is trading in red today. Sources have told us that the company has announced price cuts effective today. Nigel is joining us to give us more details on this one. Nigel?
Well, that's right. Earlier today we had mentioned to our viewers prior to market opening that there was a price cut. Now we have confirmation of that in terms of, we have reached out to various buyers and they suggest that prices have been cut by around 300 rupees per ton. That's both on lumps as well as fines. Effectively, that means that prices have been cut by around 7 to around 10% odd on lumps and fines. Keep in mind that in the last few months, NMDC hasn't cut prices. That's from the month of August. That's when they cut, when they increased prices, in fact, a little bit. And from there, there's been no price cuts. So two big reasons why they've cut prices. One is, I understand that demand on ground is still very, very weak and offtake is not really coming about. That's for NMDC. Their inventory levels as well are moving up. So that's a spot of bother. Point number two is that, in fact, the pricing, if you look at the international iron ore prices, they were in that vicinity of around $110 per ton. That was in the month of August. And they came down to around $80 per ton. Now, at current reckoning, it's around $90, $92 per ton. That's international prices. So it's still down by close to around, $15 to around $20 per ton from August. And in that span, NMDC didn't move prices. So now it's a bit of a catch-up on the downside as well. We reached out to the management, didn't get any official comment out there, but we're waiting by. But I can tell you for sure that prices have been cut by around 300 rupees per ton. Back to you.
All right, Nigel, thanks a lot for that. Good one on you. You informed it, and now it's official as well. We take a short break. On the other side, we get chatting with the management of Suven Life Sciences. That stock is buzzing in trade, up in double digits on the back of a news update coming.
Welcome back. Well, it's a weak day for the markets, but there are a couple of stocks which are managing to hold their head up above the water. And how? One such stock is Suven Life, which is off the day's high, but is still surging in trade today. It's up over 7%. Now, the news on the company is that the company has announced the randomization of the first patient in phase 3 global trials for its molecule under study, SUVN502. It is being studied for dementia in Alzheimer's. So what this means is that they've managed to recruit the first patient who is going to be able to take this medicine as they have dementia with Alzheimer's, and then we will assess whether this particular molecule actually works or not. Venkat Jasti, the chairman and CEO at Suven Life Sciences, joins in now to discuss more on this development and their business. Mr. Jasti, hi, thank you very much for taking the time out. If you could just give us the significance of the first patient being recruited, because the stock is up 7%. So make us understand how difficult a process it actually is.
Yes, thanks for the call. And I just want to clarify that the trial is for the agitation and aggression in Alzheimer type dementias, not Alzheimer's itself. So, Suven 502 is tried on 560 patients earlier for Alzheimer's disease, cognition in Alzheimer's disease. And because it has to be given on top of 2 other drugs, it did not meet the endpoint for the Alzheimer's. But the secondary endpoints at that time gave a clear indication that it will be good for the agitation and aggression in Alzheimer type dementias. Hence, since 560 patients given a very good the safety profile, we have gone to the FDA, and the FDA agreed to make this compound for the agitation and aggression because it has a small number of people out of the 560 patients. We need to do a bigger study, and this will be a solo molecule. That means it will not be on top of anything. It will be purely Suven 502, 2 strengths plus a placebo, and on a 375 patients. And it will be for a 12-week trial. And for the randomization, it's a first milestone in the sense because it has the inclusion-exclusion criteria. And in US, we started recruiting people. Now first patient is randomized. That means he has taken medication. And in Europe, it will be a couple of months from now. The trial will end sometime in first quarter of 2025. If everything goes well, then the readout will be in the second or third quarter of 2025.
Okay. All right. Mr. Jasti, you know, the street wants to know two things. One, what is the potential of this molecule, considering that it was also a secondary endpoint in the earlier study where SUVN502 was being studied for only Alzheimer's, and that did not meet the endpoint. That wasn't successful for Alzheimer's. So what is the potential now? And two, is there any kind of out-licensing opportunity for this particular molecule? Have you already heard back from partners? Are you in talks?
As far as out-licensing is concerned, no, not at all, because in central nervous system diseases, there is no drug is for treatment, and especially nothing is available for the agitation and aggression, and the potential will only be known, but it will be huge potential compared to, because since 2003, no new drug is developed for Alzheimer's. Whatever they developed are now they are gone wayside. And the agitation aggression is a part of that thing, and that's where we are targeting. And as per the estimates, it will be a billion plus sales will be there minimum. But since there is no drug available at this time, you cannot estimate anything. But our goal is to get the positive end result, and that will take another 3.5 years before you can see anything tangible. You know, in this business, it's a 0 to 1. There is no in between. So just because we started has no meaning, because it has to go a long way.
Right, that's right, and we hope that the trials are successful. Of course, the trials are expected to end sometime by Q1 of 2025. In that period, Mr. Jasti, can you quantify what kind of cost will you have to incur on these trials, and what are the plans? How do you plan to fund those costs as well?
You know, it will cost roughly about $35 million for this molecule alone. And as you know, we have just closed our rights issue. We have raised 400 crores of rupees, and with 8%, 7.5% over subscription in the rights issue, just closed on 10th of this month. And it will be listing permissions are also applied. So for now, this will be sufficient for that purpose and for other molecule also. Hoping the other molecules, SUNG3031, the data will come out sometime middle of next year, calendar next year. And if that is good, there is a possibility, because that is a phase 2 proof of concept study for the excessive daytime sleepiness, that has a provision for the out-licensing and collaborative making it to phase 3 also. So either we get some funding by that time, or a collaboration or out-licensing can happen. But otherwise, we have enough funds for the next 3 years to take care of the existing molecules.
Right. Mr. Jasti, you were thinking of listing the US arm, right? I just wanted to know that does this approval in any way increase the confidence of people and maybe make you, list the US arm earlier than expected? Because that's what you said will take, your US arm to be listed.
Yes, this has a positive tone towards that, but the phase 2 proof of concept that will be for the SUNG3031 will have much more stronger effect, and we are in the process of working out, but it takes 18 months before you could see any kind of a alignment into listing on that basis. So we are working in tandem, but we'll see the results in mid of next year, and that will speed up the things for the listing also. Unless, meanwhile, if we have the out-licensing opportunity, that also will be looking at it.
Mr. Jasti, I just wanted to touch base on that out-licensing opportunity for a different molecule. You did mention that one of your molecules is under study. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's 303 SUVN, and that's for excessive sleepiness. And you did mention that maybe you will get more data about it probably in the next year odd. Are you seeing any sort of interest in that particular molecule when it comes to out-licensing, or any other?
Not only that molecule, all the molecules are interested by the big pharma and the specialty pharma. They are all asking for the data, but nobody wants to put even a dime before it has a proof of concept. Everybody is interested, they're taking the information and keeping it handy. When the things happen, then they will come to us. Until that time, there will not be anything will be done other than sharing the information.
So nothing till you get the data for 303 next year?
Yes, the middle of next year.
Okay.
Okay, all right, Mr. Jasti, it was a pleasure speaking with you, sir. Thanks a lot for joining us, telling us what this means for the company and what your plans are with this trial going forward as well. That's the word coming in from Suven Life Sciences. The stock up 8% as we speak. Let's do one thing, slip into a short break. Up next, we'll be joined by Rajiv Gandhi. Welcome back. Still tuned into Halftime Report on CNBC-TV18. Some recovery from the lows, not much, but the Nifty is down 24 points as we speak. We have mid-cap index which continues to languish, but it's the bank Nifty which is seeing some recovery as well. And as we speak, couple of these names, the likes of Reliance Industries, which is moving higher. We have Tech Mahindra, the other one, which is also doing well. And Tata Consumer Products, that is the stock that should come up for you on the screen. That is at the day's high. So all these stocks are actually contributing to the Nifty recovery that we are seeing from the lows. Majorly Reliance Industries with that big weight on this particular index. But a couple of stocks in the broader markets which are doing well as well. Exide Industries, the rally continues. The stock has surged over 25% in last 6 months and is rallying today after it gave out details of its lithium-ion manufacturing foray on a conference call. Sonia is here with the key takeaways.
Absolutely. And Exide, after a very long time, came out with a detailed conference call on their lithium-ion manufacturing foray. They're getting into the lithium-ion business in a big way. In fact, phase 1 of their lithium-ion cell plant will start by the second half of FY25. They expect production to stabilize by FY26. And there's a huge capex plan as well. They will require capex of 4,000 crores in the first phase and an incremental spend of 2,000 crores in the second phase. They have reached out to OEMs for their lithium-ion batteries, and the response has been very strong. The lead acid business margins are also improving. Remember, the stock has rallied about 25% in the last 6 months. And despite that, this news flow has seen a further up move on the stock. Hence, a positive news flow coming in there.
All right, moving on today. Earlier, we caught up with Tahir Badshah, who's CIO Equities at Invesco Mutual Fund, to understand fundamentals of the market and his sectoral outlook. An important one to perhaps get in primarily on account of the way we are in the markets. And as we speak, the Nifty has actually moved closer to that 18,400 mark. Will be interesting to see whether it sustains above 18,400 or not. And if it does, then there is case for further short covering. We are meandering between 18,350 to 18,400. We're closing in on that 18,400 mark, and that perhaps can be looked at via Reliance. The intraday chart of Reliance should come up for you. It's taken a bit of a sharp spike right now, and that's the one that has taken the Nifty higher as well, where you can see Reliance at the high point of trade. So let's get in Tahir Badshah's opinion on the market.
Earnings expectations have actually perhaps not been kind of beaten in this particular quarter's earnings. I think we've just about managed to clear the finishing line, and probably we've seen a marginal upgrade as far as the large caps or the Nifty kind of earnings is concerned, probably helped by some of the larger banks, if at all. But broadly, the entire mid and small cap space on an average seems to have probably somewhat disappointed compared to what the expectations were at the start of the season. I think it's been a decent result season, but it's not necessarily led to a scenario where we would probably hope for significant upgrades from here on. Banks are still one place where probably you might still argue for a little bit of upside, and particularly maybe some upgrades in terms of earnings as well. Going forward, if let's say credit growth continues to maintain its momentum. There is, of course, on the other hand, the flip side is that we need to see deposit growth also catch up, and we need to probably focus more on the banks who can manage the overall liability situation, the liquidity situation much better than some others. So I think we need to make our choices within that space. But in general, I think that is one of the sectors where top line probably can still deliver some positive surprises. We saw some of that even evidenced in the last quarter's earnings. So I think that is still a sector where we can probably stay a lot more constructive.
All right, that's the word coming in from Tahir Badshah. But let's get in the next corporate on our show, that is Hester Biosciences. The stock is close to its 52-week low levels today. Company's Q2 performance was subdued as they recorded a growth in revenue, but profit and EBITDA declined this time around. Rajiv Gandhi, the MD and CEO at Hester Biosciences, is joining us now. Mr. Gandhi, good afternoon. Thanks a lot for joining us. Well, your poultry division has been weak, and industry has been seeing a lot of stress because of higher input costs and low final price as well. That is something that happened in Q2. Is that something that you are seeing right now as well? What is the outlook?
The poultry industry had been in a reasonable tight situation for the last nearly 1.5 years. It appears that things are improving at this point of time, and we are keeping our fingers crossed that the poultry industry overall does revive in India, which would then again lead us to higher sales. But also at the same time, we are sort of trying to de-risking all our the range between poultry, large animal, etc., so that overall we do not see these dips impacting us continuously in the coming quarters.
Okay. Mr. Gandhi, you know what interests me is your human vaccine division. We understand that you've been approved for the monkeypox vaccine by the government as well. Can you just tell us where things stand?
As things stand at this point of time, we have been one of the shortlisted companies, and our discussions, we have just had one meeting, and the discussions are yet to now take place in order to firm up things towards the next steps as far as monkeypox vaccine is concerned. So I am not able to really give any information, not that there is anything confidential, because it's all with ICMR and everything would be in public domain. It's just that it is yet to progress.
You had a tie-up for Covaxin with Bharat Biotech. And obviously, you know, COVID as a whole has taken a backseat. Everyone knows that quite well. In that sense, where do things stand on the Covaxin tie-up? And are you going to probably repurpose that facility now?
The facility created by us is a BSL-3 laboratory. As it what stands right now, we are still progressing for making the drug substance for Covaxin. But with the falling demand of the COVID vaccine, thank God for that in a way, we could definitely, we are looking at repurposing that. And the monkeypox vaccine, if at all it goes, it would be a result of such a repurposing.
All right, will be interesting because, you know, I remember you announcing that your intent to get into COVID vaccine at the peak of COVID in the street. Really liked that, but turns out that COVID, and thankfully for humanity, has come down. Not so good for your business. You know, just wanted to understand on your margins a little bit more, Mr. Gandhi. You said that margins have also been impacted because you've been pushing healthcare products forward as well. And that has lower margins. You have increased your marketing costs. So what can you, you know, guide for in terms of improvement in margins as a trend going from here?
The margins in health products have would always be lower than the vaccine margins. Yeah. So when the company tries to grow between the various divisions, that is the vaccines as well as the health products, and the health product being a much bigger market overall, yes, there has been a drop in the margins. But what we see and what we foresee is that this drop in the margin, we need to arrest it, and we need to again go back to the higher margins that we have seen in the past years. And we are confident of turning the wheel around and again improving the margins. And this would be done by, one is higher sales. What has happened is that we have even increased our sales force, etc. So all that has also impacted. The results would be seen in the coming quarters.
So before we let you go, Mr. Gandhi, can you, you know, the first half revenues have been absolutely flat. Margins have fallen by 12 percentage points from 28% to 16%. You are saying that these will improve. Can you give us a sense of what this year will end at in terms of revenues, and by when are you targeting the margins to go back to previous levels?
Margins definitely will be better in the H2 as what we have forecasted and as what we have planned. And talking about the flat sales, etc., the year before that, because of the disease problems and all, it was an exceptional year that we had in the Q1, Q2 in the last to last year. So therefore, this appears to be flat. But if you see, we have reasonably turned around. Our Q2 sales are up by around more than 27%. And therefore, the trend will now go on in terms of sales. And I would not really be able to give an exact figure or an approximate figure. But this growth that we have gotten up, picked up in Q2, we would want to maintain that growth. And definitely the margins, this is the lowest that we have seen, and there would be a turnaround in the margin.
All right, Mr. Gandhi, we're going to leave it on that note. Thanks very much for joining in and speaking with us. So that is Hester Biosciences. It's been an interesting show because we've had Hester Bio talk about how they want to probably look at a monkeypox vaccine. And before that, we had Suven Life, which is confident or hoping to develop a drug for Alzheimer's, which has not seen any kind of development in terms of a drug or cure since 2003. No cure, definitely, but not even a drug since 2003.
Let's hope that, we don't have to use any of them, and none of the human, none of humanity has to use any of them as well.
Anyway, well, hope lives, so hope floats. So Suven Life Sciences up around 7.8%. Time for a short break. On the other side, we'll focus on Paytm. The stock is under pressure on the back of a large block deal that took place. We'll get you more details in terms of the buyers and sellers once we're back. Stay tuned.
Let's talk about Paytm. That stock is under pressure as a pre-IPO investor has sold a large chunk as soon as the lock-in period has ended. There you have it, down almost 9%. Nisha gets us exclusive details of this trade. Nisha.
That's right, and sources with direct knowledge actually have shared with us that one of the largest shareholders of Paytm, SoftBank, is the one which has done a large transaction. In fact, sources suggest that SoftBank has sold down with this large trade 25% of its overall holding in Paytm, and that leaves it with around 13% stake, and sold is around 4.5% stake at the moment. So 561 rupees per share is the average price. Around about 555 to 561 is the price at which SoftBank has sold down the shares of Paytm as soon as the pre-IPO investors' lock-in period 1 year after the IPO has ended. Now, there are a few things to look at here. 830 rupees per share is the price at which SoftBank had invested in Paytm, and it is selling down at a huge loss. On the other hand, there's a 60-day now lock-in period as per SEBI norms, in which SoftBank will not be able to sell the remaining stake. So about 13% stake will remain with SoftBank at least for 60-day period. So that stock sale overhang is not there for 60 days, at least from SoftBank. Now, the sellers that we have gathered from sources with direct knowledge are Norges Bank, Seganti, Millennium, LMR and Gizello. Now, these are long-only funds. The texture of the fund is mostly crossover funds. They invest in public as well as private market investments. And one important aspect that I gauged is that the stock listed 1 year back at a $20 billion valuation, and now it is at $4 billion valuation. So the new investors have come in at a huge discount to the IPO price, and they may see some value, and especially when they are long-only fund. But most of the investors have said that it's not an investment in the company, but on the promoter of the company, and his ability for execution is what the new investors have come in for.
Okay, all right, Nisha, thanks very much for bringing us the qualitative as well as the quantitative data for Paytm and the large deal that took place. Time for a break now. On the other side, Manisha Gupta joins in with Atul Chaturvedi, the executive chairman at Sri Renuka, to discuss the sugar space. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Joining us on the show now is Mr. Atul Chaturvedi. He is Executive Chairman at Sri Renuka Sugars. Mr. Chaturvedi, hi, thank you so much for joining us. I want to start with the sugar prices first, and whether it's about the international raw sugar or the white sugar prices. The last 1 week clearly has been eventful. We've seen gains come in. There are reports of short covering, drought in Europe, Brazil bending more towards ethanol. What do you give to this rise in prices?
Well, in fact, my take is that this bull run as far as the prices in the international market is concerned is largely the result of, one, the delay in the Indian crushing season. We expected Indian crushing season to start on 1st of October, which didn't happen. So with the result that in the month of October, hardly any sugar moved out of the country, and the world really needs Indian sugar. And the other is, with this bull run, the Indian defaults have also triggered massive short covering in the international market. So all these things have resulted in a massive bull run as far as sugar is concerned. But that is not getting reflected in the Indian domestic market. Our prices are relatively in check, and they've not moved up.
The reason you have to keep an eye on the international prices is because the exports are getting contracted on a big way, really. Out of the 6 million tons, we understand that the 4 million tons has been contracted already. How soon do you see this pushing out? And the statement that you made that there are some reports of defaults as well on sugar being sold at premium to other states as well. How much of a quantum and how impacting is that?
No, approximately we feel that about 500,000 tons of domestic defaults have actually probably have happened.
Okay.
And this default is largely to the Indian exporters who had committed in the international market and had covered on a back-to-back basis. So that default is, or rather, the other word now is that renegotiation of the prices. That is actually happening. But my take is that in the month of November, physical exports from the country could be in the region of about 1 million tons. Whereas in the month of October, there was hardly any exports worth the name because the quota actually came much later.
Correct.
So this should help in next couple of months, should help in cooling the international prices. And I think probably the worst as far as the prices or the bull run is concerned is probably over.
All right. So you do not see...
From this level, we can start seeing a little bit of a downward pressure coming in because Indian exports will kick off big time in November, December and Jan.
There also is an international sugar organization report suggesting that this year we could actually be looking at a bit of a surplus coming into the international markets. Have you assigned a number to that?
No, they are talking in terms of a surplus of about 6.5 million tons, but we would much rather feel that it could be closer to about 4 million tons. But a lot will actually depend on the parity in Brazil between ethanol and sugar. With sugar prices being so high, there are some talk that in fact in Brazil the sugar could be closer to about 38 million tons as against 33 million tons of this year. So a jack-up of about 5 million tons. So that will all depend on how the sugar prices remain in the international market and how the petroleum and the ethanol scenario pans out.
Clearly.
So we feel next year, as far as sugar availability is concerned, there's adequate availability. But it would be interesting to see how the trade flows actually happen. Because if India has this start-stop kind of a scenario, so that could mean there could be blips in the international market.
All right. So as of now, all the good news has factored into the markets right now, but how the trade flows going ahead is something that will decide future course of action for the sugar as a sector there. Mr. Chaturvedi, as always, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time, and that's all the time that we have on the show. But Business Lunch will take all the action forward after this very short break.